Hi everyone, this is Karen and welcome to the 7 Days of Change book club. And for our first book, it's going to be Money Isn't the Problem, You Are. This is a book written by Gary Douglas and Dain Heer. And this is actually my introduction to access consciousness. Like after reading the book, I just know I have to learn more about access consciousness and I'm so excited to share this with you. So we'll do this in the next 7 days. Today we'll start with chapter 1 and we'll go on the other chapters in the coming days until we finish the whole book. Okay, are you ready? So let's begin. Money Isn't the Problem. You Are by Gary M. Douglas and Dr. Dain Heer. And what if it's all about how much you're willing to receive? Introduction. This book is written for people who live in a constant state of difficulty around money, whether it's spending too much, not having enough, or having too much. I'm Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, an energy transformation system. Of course, this is the author talking, that provides people with tools they can use to remove their limitations and disabilities and create some pretty amazing and wonderful new possibilities for themselves. In this book, my friend and collaborator, Dr. Dain Heer, and I share processes, tools, and points of view about money that you can use to change the way money flows into your life. And this book is based on the Access Money Seminar, which was taught in cities throughout the United States, Costa Rica, Australia, and New Zealand. Gary and Dane started offering money seminars because they discovered that people were always trying to find a solution to what they thought was their money problem. And Gary had pretty much a lot of money problems himself, and he had done so many courses on money that he went cross-eyed at the idea of taking another money class. In the end, none of the money classes Gary took ever changed anything about the way he approached money. He still had the same money problems after completing the course, and his relationship to money began to change as access developed and he discovered fresh points of view that could be used to create a different relationship with money. And in this book, Gary and Dane offer viewpoints and the philosophies behind them, as well as the tools and techniques you can use to handle whatever your money situation is. Gary Douglas, Santa Barbara. Before I start with chapter 1, please let us know where you're joining us from. This group is actually an international group, so it would be nice to know where you're joining us from. And if you have other inputs or insights or anything that really struck you, please share it. Thank you, everyone. So let's begin with chapter 1. Money, money, money. Do you have a money issue? Dane and Gary have a friend who wanted to make a lot of money. He said, I have a money issue. Gary said, No, you don't. He said, Yes, I do. Gary said, No, you don't. Finally, he asked, What do you mean? Gary said, You don't have a money issue. You're just not willing to receive. He said, That's not true. Gary said, Yes, it's true. I'll prove that money is not your issue. I'll give you $1 million, tax free, if you go back to where you were before you started Access and stay there. He said, No effing way. It's not about the money, you see. It never is. It's about what you're willing to receive. If you're willing to receive the freedom of life, then money has no value to you. A lot of people think money is a solution, but it's not. Money is never the solution. Money is never the solution because money is never the problem. If you try to use money as a solution, you will only create another problem to solve with the money that you have or the money you don't have. Is money going to solve your problem? Think about it for a moment. Is money going to solve your problem or are you? Think about it. You are. How do you do it? You solve what seems to be a money problem by claiming and owning the truth of you. What does Gary mean by this? You see, many years ago, Gary was in real estate. He was making over 100,000 a year, and his wife was making over 100,000 a year. They were doing well. They were hot, they were cool, they were in with the rich people. He got invited to the rich people's part of town for parties and events, and they were hobnobbing with the socially elite. It was awesome. Then Gary's business took a nosedive. His income went from over $100,000 a year to $4,000. Of course, it didn't help that his mortgage payments were 5,000 a month, his car payments were in the 1,500 a month category, and his kids were in private schools at $15,000 per kid per year. Gary filed every form of bankruptcy known to mankind as they went through the process of losing everything. All of his friends in the rich people part of town no longer wanted to socialize with him. How odd. Because guess what is the one prejudice in the world you cannot overcome? Poverty. No money. If you have plenty of money, it doesn't matter what race, color, creed, or religion you are, or how crazy you are. Just get rich so you're seen as eccentric, not crazy. Gary got to the point where he had no money and his kids had to quit private school. He lost his cars, his house, basically everything he owned. He went to work for other companies and he hated it. Nothing was working for him until he finally recognized that the only choice he had was to do this crazy, wacky, wild stuff we call access. And once he started in that direction, everything started to turn around. Isn't that interesting? When you are unwilling to claim, own, and be everything you are as the outrageous, wonderful being you are, no matter how much you want to resist and react to it, no matter how much you want to get away from it, you bankrupt yourself in every respect until you have no choice. Are you willing to give up the no choice point of view and start recognizing that the way to create everything you want is to be as wild and crazy and wacky as you truly are? Stop pretending that you're weak, pale, and uninteresting. People think if I were to get rich and I had the money I wanted, I'd stop doing what I'm doing and I'd live a different life. But it doesn't work that way. Studies have shown that when people win the lottery within anywhere from 1 to 2 years, they're in exactly the same financial condition they were in before they won. Although it's at the higher level, they have the same degree of debt, they have at the same degree of limitation, and they have the same financial mess they had before they won the lottery. Money, it turns out, is never the solution. But if you're doing what is true for you, then winning the lottery won't matter. In fact, if you won the lottery tomorrow, it would just give you an opportunity to create more of the things you already know you can create. Next, next slide. Receiving is a problem and you are the solution. The real money problem is that you're not willing to receive you into your life. And the biggest thing you're unwilling to receive is how incredibly great you really are. Money is not the problem, money is not the solution. Receiving is a problem, and you are the solution. When you start receiving the greatness of who you truly are, everything in your life starts to change, including your money. If you're willing to receive the greatness of you and allow the world to see the greatness of you, the world will then give to you what you truly deserve. The willingness to perceive and receive yourself differently is the beginning of creating what you truly desire in your life. And that's the place where you have to start. So, what it's going to take for me to show up in my life? At this point, you've got to be frustrated with being told you're great and wonderful. Okay, fine, you know that. And yet, you've never been able to achieve what you desire. You might even be pissed off and asking, so, what's it going to take for me to show up in my life? That's a question you need to ask because the universe will give you an answer if you're willing to ask a question and listen to its reply. Please keep listening. Throughout the rest of this book are tools, techniques, and information you can use to help you show up in your life. And we hope we will use them to begin to create the life you would like to have. Do you want money? Next slide, please. The natural state of things here on planet Earth, contrary to anything you may have been told, is a state of abundance. If you look around when you are in nature, you'll see that when humans aren't doing their best to destroy things, there's no place where life is not thriving and abundant. There's no place that doesn't abound in plant, animal, bird, and insect life, even in so called barren landscapes. There's an unimaginable amount of life going on. If you stop using a road, even one paved over with asphalt, in a very period of time, cracks will appear, weeds will start growing, and pretty soon the road will become completely overgrown and disappear. It's a terrifically abundant universe, and it's only when the humans manage to bring in the concrete that we stop experiencing nature's abundance. Only where humans trod do barrenness or poverty exist. Poverty consciousness is what keeps us from perceiving and experiencing the ongoing natural state of abundance. Poverty consciousness is not a reflection of how things really are. It's a state of mind we create. It's the place we function from when we tell ourselves, I don't have enough. I never have enough. No matter what happens, I will never have enough. There are a million variations on the theme. I just have enough to survive. I don't need more than this amount of money to make it. It's the point of view that lack is more real than abundance. It's the idea that it's more noble to be poverty stricken than to be wealthy. Some people actually think it's morally superior to be poor. They have the pride of poverty. Dane tells how people in his family used to say, at least we have a great family and we're happy. Those people with money aren't happy. He says he'd look around and say to himself, they couldn't be any more unhappy than you. I don't think so. Often, people with poverty consciousness take pride in being poverty stricken, or they believe they can only be comfortable with people who are at their social economic level. They will only be comfortable around people as poor as they are. I wouldn't be comfortable with rich people because rich people are different. Well, okay, look at the category you've just put yourself into. Poverty consciousness is not a state of mind that only poor people have. Rich people can have it as well. I went to a billionaire's party recently and it seemed like everyone was trying to be the best at degrading their gardeners and their health. This is what they thought being rich meant, degrading the health. Oh, it's so hard to get good help. No, it isn't. It's easy to get good help if you treat people well. And even though they have lots of money, there is an unwillingness to receive the greatness of anyone. They think they have to control their employees and pay them as little as possible. Poverty consciousness is not about the amount of money you have, it's about the way you treat yourself and others, and the abundance you're willing to see in the world. The word want is a key component of poverty consciousness. Next slide, please. Do you know what the word want means? It means lack. Every time you say, I want, you're saying, I lack. And if you say, I want more money, you'll start to lack more and more all the time. If you start paying attention to what you think or what you say, you'll see exactly how you're creating the abundance or the lack of it that's showing up in your life. Look up want in the dictionary. You might have to find it in an older dictionary. Dictionaries that were made prior to 1946 have correct definitions of the words of the English language. After 1946, they started to change the definitions to reflect the colloquial usage. If you look at the word want in a dictionary published prior to 1946, you'll see that there are several definitions of want, meaning to lack, and only one that means to desire. To desire is to look for something to be available in the future. So, even with that definition, you're still in trouble. Listen to people who are truly abundant. The word want isn't in their vocabulary. They don't know the word, they don't have the idea that want is part of life. Everything is about having it, getting it, going for it, and allowing it. There's an old proverb that says, waste not, want not, waste not, lack not. If you recognize that the word want means to lack, and you listen to yourself, you'll see that you're using it all the time. Ask yourself, what would it take for the word want to fall out of my vocabulary? Instead of creating from, I want money, allow yourself to create from, I don't want money. Because every time you say, I want more money, you're saying, I lack of it. And that's exactly what shows up in your life. Try this. Say, I don't want money 10 times. I don't want money. 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 What happened? Did saying I don't want money make you feel lighter or heavier? Lighter refers to a sense of expansion and possibility and a great sense of space. You might have even smiled or laughed out loud. Heavier refers to a feeling of contraction, of things weighed down, less possibility. If you're like most people, saying I don't want money made you feel lighter. Why is that? It's because the truth always makes you feel lighter. A lie makes you feel heavier. The truth of you is you don't lack of money. And saying so shows you're willing to bring it on. You can create receiving in your life by saying that 10 times every morning. When people around you say, I want money, you can smile and knowingly say, I don't want money. Do you ever worry about money? Do you ever worry about not having enough money? When was the last time you worried about it? Get the feeling of that. Do you have it? Okay, make that feeling infinite. Make it as big as the universe. Make that feeling bigger than the universe. Not eternal, but infinite. You can imagine sticking the needle of a giant air pump into the middle of your worry and then blowing it up so bigger than the universe. But making something bigger than the universe is not really something you have to think about or do. It's just an awareness. And it usually happens as soon as you've been asked to do it. What happens to your money worry when you make it infinite? Does it get fuller and more substantial? Does it have a greater sense of reality? Or does it fade away and disappear? If it goes away, which is what you suspect it will do, then it's a lie. The worry might be something you think is true, but really isn't. You've bought something that's not true. Now think about somebody you care about. Make that feeling infinite, bigger than the universe. Does it become more substantial or less substantial? More substantial? Isn't that interesting? When you think about how much you care for someone and you make it infinite, bigger than the universe, you see it's even bigger than you're willing to admit to yourself. If you were willing to admit how much you care about someone else and you are truly willing to care that much about yourself, how much do you think that would be willing to receive? How much do you think you would be willing to receive? When you take the caring that you have and you make it infinite, it becomes fuller and more present. It occupies more space than the opposite did. You realize that you care more than you acknowledge. You may say, yeah, I care. But when you fill it out and make it substantial, you can see how very much you care. It's almost as if you're afraid to care that much. Think about having plenty of money. Next page, please. Now think about having plenty of money. Get the feeling of having plenty of money. Make it infinite, bigger than the universe. Does it get more substantial or less? More substantial? And when you think about not having money, when you say, oh no, I'm broke, I can't do this, if you make those feelings or worries infinite, bigger than the universe, what happens to them? They go away. If you create based on a lie, can you create a truth out of it? Isn't this interesting? We tend to buy into lies like, I don't have any money. And then we try to create our lives based on those lies. If you attempt to create based on a lie, can you create a truth out of it? No way. If you lie to yourself or buy into false points of views, you create limitations that do not allow you to expand into what is possible with money. Sometimes Dane tells stories about one side of his family that thought they were lucky if they had enough money to put food on the table. His grandparents had grown up during the Depression, and there were times when they didn't have food. Their point of view was they were successful if they had enough money to buy food. Dane bought that point of view as a truth and held on to it until he started Axis. He bought the idea that having enough money to have food on the table was a measure of success. And once he started Axis, he realized wait a minute, that's not true. Shortly after he got started in Access and was seeing some different possibilities in life, Dane and Gary drove up to San Francisco together to do an Access course. They were going there for 3 days, and Dane brought 10 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, 3 pounds of trail mix, and 3 boxes of granola bars. Since he didn't have any money, he thought that that would be the food he'll eat while he was there. And at one point during the drive, Gary put a big piece of red gum in his mouth, chewed it for about 10 minutes, spat it out, and put another piece in. And he chewed another one for 10 minutes, spat it out, and put another one in. And he chewed another one for 20 minutes and put a new piece in. Dane wasn't saying anything, but he was freaking out every time Gary puts a new piece of gum into his mouth. Finally, Dane asked, why do you do that? Gary said, do what? Dane said, chew one piece of gum after the other like that. Gary said, because I only like the taste at the beginning. After that, it's boring. Dane came from a family where you chewed your gum for a day and a half. And he never considered the possibility that you could do anything so extravagant with a dollar pack of gum. Had never considered a different standard of affluence for himself. It busted his whole paradigm of not having enough. His reaction was, wait a minute, you can do that? Most of us buy into lies and limitations like this as we're growing up. This is what success is, or this is what I can or can't have. In Dane's case, the lie was abundance is being able to feed yourself. That was his family's point of view, and that's the point of view he bought. Isn't that what abundance is? No, of course not. When he saw that he'd been trying to create his financial life around the lie, new possibilities started to appear. So instead of making yourself nuts about money, which is something that we're all very good at, by the way, instead of worrying about money or living in a state of near poverty, start to realize that your worries, concerns, and beliefs about money are not real. And when you realize that they're not real, you won't buy into them and you won't create your life based on what is not real or true. Make it bigger than the universe. Use this exercise to get at the truth of issues. When you make things bigger than the universe, what is real becomes more full and substantial. It feels more real. It takes up more space. And what's a lie dissipates. It goes away. Change what happens with money in your life by using this simple tool and create from what's true for you. I can't afford it. Have you ever told yourself, I can't afford this? Years ago, Gary was working at an antique shop rearranging furnitures for them. They hired Gary because every time he rearranged things, something they had in stock for 2 years would sell. They'd have him come in and do a rearrangement about every 2 weeks. He was making around 37.50 an hour, which was pretty good money at that time. He was doing that along with everything else he would do to support his wife and kids. The shop owners were so happy with what he was doing, and they said, you know what? Anything you want to buy at the store, we'll give it to you at our cost, and you can put it on terminal layaway. You can have it whenever you get paid off. Just keep working for us. This was not a low end antique shop. This was a place that had 20,000 bedroom sets. They had diamond rings that were $35,000. Gary looked at them and said, who can afford this stuff? After they said that to me, Gary looked around the shop and suddenly he realized that he could have anything in it. It's what we think we can't have that becomes valuable. Once Gary recognized that he could afford anything he wanted, it might have taken him a while to get it home, but he could afford anything in the antique shop. He realized that none of it mattered to him. He didn't care anymore. It's what we think we can't afford or what we think we can't have that becomes valuable. It becomes valuable not because it has true value, but because we can't have it. We make the scarcity the significance. So every time you say I can't afford it, you're saying you're not worth it. I can't afford it means I can't have it. So, how many times have you decided you couldn't afford an item and settled for something that was less than what you wished to have? You can afford anything. Almost any shop in the world will do a layaway for you. Dane and Gary recently went into a pawn shop and they had a sign, lay away now. The whole idea was you could go into this shop, they had stuff in there for up to $20,000 and they would let you put anything on layaway. If you put it on time payments, you could have anything in there. But the question is, do you really want it? What would I really like to have? Practice this, practice this on your own. Go into a store and walk around saying, okay, I can have anything here I truly desire. What would I really like to have? You look at things and say, no, no, that's not nice. That's nice. That's nice. And you'll walk out saying, you know what? There's nothing in there I truly would like to have. I'm going to have this in my life. If you do find something you'd like to have, say, I'm going to have this in my life, and walk out without looking at the price tag. Why don't you look at the price tag? Because if you do, you're creating a limitation about what it's going to cost and how you can't afford it. If you don't look at the price tag and you just say, I'm going to have this in my life, then you can create an opportunity for the universe to drop that into your lap in some way you never imagined possible, at a price you're willing to pay. Recently, Gary's daughter said, I'd like to have a Gucci wallet, Dad. They're $250. Gary said, okay, that's good. We'll see what can happen. 3 weeks later, Gary stopped at a garage sale for no apparent reason, and there was a Gucci wallet for sale. It was $3, and Gary assumed it had to be a knockoff and took it home. Turns out it was the real thing. So, if money weren't the issue, what would you choose? When you're shopping for an item, you can take away the sense of need and the sense of money by asking yourself, if money weren't the issue, what would I choose? Next slide, please. Most of us make choices based on what we think we need and can't have. When you ask yourself, if money weren't the issue, what would I choose? It removes money as the basis of your choice. Dane went to buy a printer. He was looking at several different models, and Dane asked, if money weren't the issue, which one would you choose? His first thought was, oh, I'd pick the biggest one. It was $500, which was a little out of his range. But that's what he thought he would get if money weren't the issue. But then he started looking around and he found another printer that did almost everything the $500 one did. It was $150. And he said, oh, if money weren't the issue, I'd choose the $150 printer. Once he got rid of the need, I need this, but I can't have it, he saw he could have everything he desired at a much better price. Like Dane, most of us assume that if money weren't the issue, we'd buy the best and most expensive item. When you remove money as the issue, you can see, oh, I don't really want the big one. Sometimes the best is not really what you need. For $150, you get everything you wanted in the first place. Rather than assuming that if you had the so-called best, you would do more, have more, and create more, you can use this question to give you a sense of what your personal perspective is. It allows you to see what the true value of something is for you. It snaps you out of the viewpoint, I can't have this because. If your personal choice were the only criterion for choosing, what would you choose? You'd get the best for you, given the circumstances for which you're buying things. There are all the times when you'll ask, if money were the issue, what would I choose? And you'll decide to get the most expensive thing again, because you're not making money the criterion. You're making a choice based on what feels best for you. Are you willing to pay taxes? Some people resist paying taxes. They have decided they never want to pay taxes again, and they'll do whatever they can to avoid it. But that is a very bad decision because when they do this, they cut down the money they're willing to receive. In order to have, you must be willing to receive everything, including taxation. If you're not willing to pay taxes, then you're not willing to have the income. Personally, Gary would like to pay more taxes. You want to be able to pay outrageous amounts of taxes because that means you can receive outrageous amounts of money. Gary and Dane worked with a man who joined an untaxing group, which held the position that it is illegal for the IRS to collect taxes. Their viewpoint is that the IRS is a private corporation that has been given the tax collecting system and it is not covered in the Constitution. So, therefore, they're an illegal group. After he told Gary and Dane about this, Gary said, cool, let me tell you something about your income. Since you joined the group, it's dropped by half. The guy said, whoa, how did you know that? Gary said, because you're trying to hide from the government. When you try to hide, it means you're not allowing yourself to receive. It's impossible to stay hidden and also increase the amount of money you're making. Is there some part of your life you're hiding? Everything you're trying to hide with regard to taxes and taxation and all that kind of thing? Would you destroy and create all those decisions and claim and own that you can pay whatever friggin' tax you choose? The best defense is always to be offensively rich. Debt versus past expenditures. Sometimes people ask Gary about debt and where debt fits in all this talk about money. Have you ever noticed that debt sounds very much like death? Did you know that the word mortgage comes from mort, meaning death, and it originally meant dead pledge or to the death of it? In other words, I'm going to work for this house until I am dead, which is pretty much the way most people do it. When you have debts to pay, instead of thinking yourself as a debtor, and we've all had many lifetimes in which debtor prisons actually existed, and you went to jail for owing money. Think about what you're paying off as past expenditures. You have past expenditures to pay off, not debts. If you function from the point of view of past expenditures rather than debt, you will start to clear that stuff. Every time you say debt, you trigger all the remembrances of all the lifetimes you went to debtor's prison. Let's get rid of debt. Credit. If you have credit, then you can be in debt. Isn't that great? Have you worked to make yourself credit worthy so you could have bigger debt? That's the way it works. If you aren't credit worthy, you aren't debt worthy. Credit-worthy means you can owe more money. How cool is that? We suggest you change your perspective about credit. Don't try to create credit worthiness. Look for the abundance of your cash worthiness. Ask, how do I increase the flow of cash? And what are the infinite possibilities for a whole hell of a lot of cash to come into my life? Gary have people who say to him, "Oh, I have all this debt." Gary would say, "Okay, so you've got all this debt. How much more would you have to earn per month in order to pay it off?" And they say, "I have no idea. My monthly credit card payments are $500." And Gary said, "Great. That means in 20 years you'll have that sucker paid off." So if you pay the smallest amount of money that's owed on your credit card, do you realize that the $40 dinner you just charged will end up costing you $200? Gee, I wonder why banks like you to charge things. It's good to charge, right? Get over it. It's good to make money. That's what's good. So are you more interested in how cool it is to have credit cards than how cool it is to make money? Sometimes Gary would see people open their wallets and a long line of credit cards fall out. And Gary asked, "Why do you need those?" And they say, "Well, I have a lots of credit and look at all the things I can buy." And Gary would say, "You can't buy shit. You don't have any money." And they say, "Yes, but I can buy a lot of things." And Gary would say, "Yeah, but you don't have any money. Are you stupid and insane?" Gary knows someone who went through his wallet and took out all of his credit cards and put them away so that he wasn't carrying debt around with him. Great idea. Then he said when he gets all the cards paid off, he can slowly but surely put them back into his wallet if he's foolish enough to do that. If you can start to live with the cash and the money that flows in your life, you'll start to expand. When we think, "Oh my God, I'm out of money," that's just a point of view. "I'm out of money, I've got to use my credit card." That point of view, all by itself, is enough to lock you up because it's a lie. Give up the credit cards, find a different way, create money. Don't create credit and the debt that follows it. The tools that follow will help you do this. Next slide. Tithe to the church of you. A tithe is a tenth part of one's income that is contributed to charity or to support one's church. Do you believe in tithing to your church? What about tithing to the church of you? Would you be willing to do that? Here's what you do. You take 10% of everything that comes into your life and you put it away. Put it into a savings account, put it in a bank, put it under the mattress. It doesn't matter where you put it, just put it away. Don't spend it. If you continue to put that 10% away, you demonstrate to the universe that you desire money. When you tithe to the church of you, the universe responds, "Oh, you like money? Okay, we'll give you more money." And you might be thinking, "Gosh, I can barely make ends meet now. How am I going to set aside 10%?" The answer is by doing it. The universe honors whatever you request of it. If you honor you by tithing 10% of what you take in, the universe says, "Oh, you want to be honored with 10%? Here's some more to honor yourself with." Do you take care of your bills before you tithe to yourself? When you pay your bills first, have you noticed how the number of bills grow? Why is that? You're honoring your bills, and the universe says, "Oh, you like bills? Okay, we'll give you more bills." This doesn't mean you don't pay your bills. What you do is honor you. And if you have to stretch things a little bit or pay, play catch up later, no problem. If you start to honor yourself first and tithe 10% to the church of you, within 6 months to a whole year, your financial situation will turn around. You will hit financial targets you made a billion years ago when you said, "When I have this amount of money, I'm going to be rich. When I hit this amount of money, I'm very rich." These are decisions that you don't even remember making. But when you achieve them, you experience a sense of peace within yourself, and the frantic need for money goes away. My friend who owns the antique shop was borrowing $100,000 every 6 months to go to Europe and buy antiques. The bank charged him 10 points up upfront to get the money. That means they charge him $10,000 to borrow the money. So he got $90,000, but he had to pay back 100,000. Plus they charged him 15% interest on the money. So if it took a year to pay it off, how much money was he paying? What was the interest rate? 25%. It cost him $25,000 to borrow $100,000 if he didn't pay it back within 12 months. And within 6 months, he was working his ass off. One day, Gary said to him, if you would put 10% away, within 6 months to a year, your whole financial condition would have turned around. He started doing it, and within 6 months, he had doubled the size of his shop and was going to Europe to buy antiques with his own $100,000. His business doubled, and his wife's business went from $250,000 a year to $1.5 million a year. About 2 years later, Gary walked into his shop and looked around and he said, you used the 10%, didn't you? And he said, oh, you're psychic. And Gary said, yeah, that and the fact that I can feel the energy in here. You're desperate to solve things. It no longer feels like a place where everything is worth a lot. It's like everything is on discount. You've changed the energy of your shop and you expect to succeed based on what? Since then, he's gotten more and more desperate because he didn't go back to tithing 10%. Does he return Gary's calls anymore? No. Why? He knows that if he went back to doing the 10%, it would work again. But he won't do it. His choice. Carry cash. If you carry cash, and if you carry your money around in your pocket and don't spend it, it makes you feel worthy. What will then show up in your life is more and more money because you're telling the universe you're abundant. And so decide upon a sum of money that you, as a rich person, will always carry with you. Whatever the amount may be, it can be $500, $1,000, 1,500. Carry it with you in your wallet at all times. Guarantee didn't mean carry a gold credit card. That doesn't cut it. You've got to carry cash in your pocket because it's about recognizing the wealth of you. You can turn your cash into gold coins if you like gold coins, and you can trade it in for diamonds if you like. Keep it in some form of currency that you can transport easily. Gary wouldn't convert his cash into tankers full of oil. They can sink. When you tell you to set 10% aside, we're not talking about putting this money into investments or projects. We want you to be like Scrooge McDuck. Do you remember him? He was Donald Duck's billionaire uncle. He loved money. He would fill his swimming pool with dollar bills and dive into it. Do you really want to have lots of money? Then be willing to have it for real. Have lots of money hanging around. Carry this amount of money with you. It can be part of your 10% if you wish. Keep it with you at all times and don't spend it. When you know you have $500 or $1,000 or more $1,500 in your pocket, you say, hey, I'm cool. You walk tall. You know that you can walk into any place and buy anything there, but you don't have a need for it. Need versus greed. When you have a sense of need, it always leads to a sense of greed, which means you'll try to hold on to what you have as though there's never going to be any more. When you have a sense of that nice, fat amount of money in your pocket and the possibility of things growing, all kinds of changes can occur for you because you're not functioning from the point of view that you have a limited amount. You start to function from the point of view I've got money in my pocket, I've got thousands of dollars in my drawer at home. I play with money. I throw it on the bed and I roll on it naked because it feels really good. Have you ever actually looked at your money? What does it look like? Whose picture is on $100 bill? We know because we carry lots of them. They're pretty. That's right. They're pretty and we carry them in our pockets. We like all those dollars. They're cute. And if you change your mind and thought money was cute and you love the way it looked, maybe you could receive it more easily. And that's the end for chapter 1 of Money Isn't the Problem, You Are. And I would like to invite you to join us again tomorrow, same time. Check for your time in the world and the link below. And we'll read chapter 2 of Money Isn't the Problem, You Are. And again, would like to invite you to go probably join us in Manila. You can travel here in Manila or for the 7 days of change happening February 4 to 10. Practice the tools of access here that you've listened to in this book. But if you want more, inviting you to the 7 days of change with Access Consciousness facilitator Junaline Musi from Lebanon. And if you register up until Sunday, you'll get a free symphony of possibilities too. So that's it for today or for tonight, wherever you are in the world. See you tomorrow for chapter 2 of Money Isn't the Problem, You Are. Bye for now, everyone. See you tomorrow.